Hi, I'm Katie, host of Focus and Flourish podcast. I used to grind nonstop until I figured out how to automate my systems that ended up helping me achieve a 4-day work week. Now I earn more and work less. Want to do the same? Grab my free 6-figure strategy guide, which is the exact blueprint I used to grow my own business to where I am today. Link in the show notes. Are you new here? Tap subscribe to support the show and never miss an episode.
Hello, photographer, and welcome to my exclusive training for your website. I assume that if you're here, you're interested in booking more photography clients through your website. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm a copywriter, so a lot of these tips have to do with copy and content and messaging as a whole, but honestly, some of them are related more to design, functionality, really just anything that can get your website visitors to not only be attracted to your website with those pretty photos that I'm sure you have, but also get them to actually convert and take the action that you want them to take, which I'm assuming is going to be something like booking a consultation call, reaching out for more information, your availability, pricing, etc. So without further ado, let's dive in to the 5 secrets to a high converting photography website. Today, we're going to talk about those 5 secrets that I mentioned, and then there are 3 practical tips for each strategy within that. So I really want to not only give you like the strategy from like a marketing business perspective, but also from a very tactical, how do I actually implement this perspective? And then I'm going to end with a couple of helpful resources, again, mostly copywriting related, but things that will really help you take your website and your business as a whole to the next level. So first, who am I? My name is Klongerbo. I am the founder and editor-in-chief of Quotable Copy, which is a copywriting studio that has been serving creative entrepreneurs like yourself since 2013. So I have a decade of experience writing digital marketing content. I've worked with various agencies that have worked with some of the top brands in the industry. You may have heard of Flowdesk, Showit, Dubsado. I've written copy for all those types of brands. And now my passion is really serving creative entrepreneurs, especially photographers who are, tend to be female, who really just want to stand out, sound good, and sell more online. And we do that with words that are just super impactful for your brand. So first things first, why does your photography website even matter? I assume that you probably understand the importance of websites in general, especially for your business. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but hopefully you understand that your website is the place where you can connect with your dream clients. They are going to be coming to your website to learn more about you and decide whether you are a good fit for them. And vice versa, you can also decide whether they are a good fit for you by vetting them, through their contact form that they fill out, deciding whether they're a good fit. But the content on your site is really a place for you to, you can obviously control the design and the copy so that it really reflects your brand, who you want to be attracting, what you want to be known for, all of that kind of thing. So it is a place where you can build trust with those ideal clients on your own turf. You probably understand that, on social media, as awesome as it is, amazing to have thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram or TikTok, you actually don't own that audience. So you can't take it with you. If the platform ever goes down or if your account is disabled or something like that, then you're kind of out of luck. So with a website, it is something that you own. Again, you can control the design, the content, all of that. And then the leads that you generate through your website via email, those, again, you own as well, as long as they don't unsubscribe from your emails. But you'll be able to market and sell to them for months and years down the road. A website is also a place where you can get those people to take the next step. So again, whether that's, getting on your email list, whether it is, hopefully booking a call or even a service, it is, a place to nurture them along what we call the buyer's journey, going from someone who has never heard of your brand or your name to someone who's like, yes, I want to take action. A quote I love is, "People don't buy without a reason why." That's from copywriter Jim Edwards. And I think it's just really powerful. It speaks to the power of copywriting because of course, you could have the most beautiful images in the world, but they're not going to sell someone on your services without at least some convincing. And in order to convince people, we need to use words. We need to show them why, like the specific reasons. And there are multiple different ways that we can do that. And we're going to get into a few of them here today. So the 3 main elements of your photography website, this is pretty basic stuff, but I just don't want to forget any one of these pillars. So first, we have your imagery. Obviously, as a photographer, you're going to have gorgeous photos, perhaps even videography on your website. And that is really going to stand out, help you show, what's different about you, your editing style, etc. But I also don't want us to forget the 2 other pillars that are equally as important. Functionality. So that could be, like the layout of your website design, as well as other design elements, things that just promote a good user experience. So it's very easy for that person to click through your website. And then the messaging, again, my favorite part, that would be the copy, the exact words that are on your website that get someone to want to work with you. Okay, so now we're going to get into the 5 secrets to a high converting website. Number 1, share what makes you special, because you're probably not the only photographer in your area, are you? And you may not even be the only wedding photographer, and you may not even be the only intimate bright, light, and airy wedding photographer or whatever it is, however you like to describe your specific niche. It's really important that not only your photos help you stand out, but the content that you're sharing helps you stand out as well. So what are ways that you can show how different you are as a photographer? I have 3 practical ways to do so. Number 1, create a unique about page. Now, how many different times have you gone to a photography website and seen a photographer who says something like, I have always wanted to take photos ever since I was a little girl. I love capturing people's memories. I love to capture your special memories and make you just feel so special on that big day of yours. Something kind of like generic like that. No shade, by the way, if you have something like that on your website, because I know it's really hard. Copywriting is so much harder than it seems, especially when we're talking about ourselves. However, that type of messaging just doesn't stand out. If your clients are looking at your website, chances are they're looking at other photographers' websites. So they're really comparing what makes this person different from the other one. So really getting creative with your about page is wise, whether that is, like the layout, maybe you have like a video. I'll get to that in number 2, but especially, like those unique facts about yourself, like your story, like the specific details that you love about your job. And then just remembering that in the end, your about page is really just not about you. You may have heard that your about page is actually about your customers or your clients. So really just focusing on, her memories and not yours, the memories that you want to capture for her, not the memories that you have of always wanting to be a photographer. Point number 2, using video content. So this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with copywriting, although, it could, depending on if you have a script that you are writing for, say like a branded video that you could embed on your page. But video is a really good way for you to stand out. As someone who is more, visual, you probably already understand that video can really make an impact, maybe as like a background, like a section background, like some looping B-roll or something like that. Or again, even as like a branded video where you're talking to the camera, sharing why working with you is fun and different and why they're going to get so much more out of it than going to someone else, maybe interspersed with some B-roll. You could even do something like a selfie testimonial video from one of your clients. You could feature that on your website. Just anything that, creates movement on your site is really going to engage people. And video is just such a good trust builder. It helps people see that you're a real person. It helps people put themselves in the shoes of your ideal client of like, oh yeah, I could actually see myself doing a session with her. And then finally, writing with your brand voice. Brand voice is something we talk a lot about at Quotable Copy. It is something that differentiates your brand because not only, do you need to think about things like logos and fonts and colors with your brand, you also need to think about your messaging strategy. Like, do you speak, quote unquote, speak, aka type, with, like more of an upbeat voice? Are you really bubbly? Do you use a lot of exclamation points and emojis? Or are you a little bit more straightforward and serious and to the point and short? Deciding how your brand talks, quote unquote, is really key to how people perceive you. And if you are consistent in that voice, especially on your website, it really builds trust in people because they start to see you as someone who is consistent, professional, and really just knows yourself so well. All right, photography website secret number 2, make your website super easy to navigate. Because if your visitors don't find what they're looking for fast, they will leave fast. So it's really important to consider user experience in creating your website. And that involves everything from, yes, your photos to your copy to the way that it all plays together on the site. How are people navigating from your homepage to your services page to your contact page? Are you making that as easy as possible? So here are 3 practical ways to make your site easy to use. Number 1, use big, bold headings. A lot of copywriters actually spend more time on the heading than on the body copy itself. And that is because 80% of people are going to read your headings and only 20% of people are going to read the rest of your website. So it's really key that you are writing for those skimmers in mind so that if they're scrolling down the page, they can only read the headings and everything's going to make sense. So just make those headings super clear. Don't be afraid to use a bigger font, something that's bolder, and really to make them more like action oriented rather than, maybe something that's just a little bland that just says like services and then you list your services underneath. What's something that can, really encourage people why they should want to work with you and then, explain more underneath. Another thing I like to recommend is creating a different page for each of your services. Certainly you could have one overarching services page. However, especially if you're doing multiple different specialties, if you're doing weddings and maternity and brand photography and newborn photography and just all the different types, the page is going to get really long and confusing. And someone who lands on it isn't necessarily going to feel seen because they just aren't seeing the content that speaks directly to them. So if you can, I would highly recommend creating a different landing page for each of those services so that someone can immediately see when they land on your site. Maybe it's in your main navigation, maybe it's also in your footer, maybe it's throughout your site, hopefully all 3, just so that it's really easy for them to find what it is that they're looking for. And then they land on that page, they read through, it's a seamless experience, and then they're ready to take that next step. This is also really good for SEO, by the way. Google likes to have more of a specific long tail keyword for each page. Not something that's too tough to rank for, but something that is more unique to the specific service you're offering versus just photography services. Number 3, sprinkle CTAs throughout your site. So a CTA, if you're not familiar, that stands for call to action. And I'm referring to them mostly as buttons. So, when you see things like learn more or shop now, I would recommend including several of these on each page. Probably 3 to 5 is a good number for most pages. Maybe on something like your contact page, you can really just have the one, like submit form button. But if it's like a normal length landing page, you want to have one probably toward the top of the page, middle of the page, and bottom of the page. And the one at the very bottom is one that I would recommend being something that really gets them to take the next step in the buyer's journey. So not, if you're on your services page, you don't want one at the very bottom that sends them back to home. You want to send them to the contact page, getting them to, really take the next step and not go backward. All right, photography website secret number 3, overcome potential clients' objections. Because yes, they are going to have hesitations and it's up to you to address them. This is something that I see as, a mistake, honestly, from a lot of photography websites. They feel that they don't want to even, come close to addressing concerns about especially price, maybe timeline, availability, things like that. But it's so much more beneficial for you to just address those things up front. So that way you're not getting all these inquiries that you then have to turn away, or worse, you hop on a phone call with them, spend all this time trying to convince them that you're worth it. And then they see the price and they balk and they ghost you. How many times has that happened to you? So really addressing those objections on your website is really wise. So 3 practical ways to overcome people's objections. Number 1, explain the process step by step. So booking a photographer can be really intimidating for some people. They don't necessarily know what to expect. They don't know what's going to be expected of them. So really just alleviating their concerns by saying, hey, this is how easy it is to work with me. Here are the 4 to 7 steps, depending on how involved your process is. I encourage you to keep it to as few steps as possible, just so that it looks very digestible on the page, and also number those steps so that people can see, okay, yeah, it's a 4-step process. Even if your process is a little bit more nebulous, those steps really encourage people that this is a manageable thing. This is a fun thing. You are going to take care of them from point A to point B to C to Z. And it's just very encouraging for people to have that laid out for them in front of them. Number 2, share lots of social proof. So social proof is what we mean when we say testimonials, quotes, maybe a logo bar of brands that you've worked with, things like that can really build your authority and just prove to people that, yes, others have worked with you, others who are like them have worked with you. And it just really establishes a lot of credibility to have, regardless of whether it's a bunch of different badges of awards that you won, or if it's direct quotes from clients, especially since you have such wonderful photos of your clients. I would highly encourage you to place photos of those clients next to their quotes to help, again, build that credibility and help people see themselves in that client's shoes. Multiple different ways that you can do this on your website, but I highly encourage probably at least one element of social proof on every page, possibly not something like a contact page, but even then it can be a really good validator. Something like a services page, I would encourage multiple different types of social proof. So maybe some testimonials, as well as, link to a blog post with a photography session that you've done recently that is related to that type of service. You get the idea. Number 3, create a place for FAQs. FAQs are amazing at qualifying your leads, setting expectations, helping you attract that perfect client for you. If you don't travel beyond 25 miles, that's something you might want to put on your website so that you don't start to get leads from people who are beyond that radius. Or if you, charge a fee, that's something else that they may want to know. Those are just kind of like some granular examples of FAQs that you could include, but I guarantee that you're asked questions all the time as a photographer. And this is just a good way for you to avoid having to answer those in person, or at least as much. And then once again, overcome people's objections. Maybe you do charge more than local photographers who offer the same services as you, but this can be a way for you to say, yes, this is the investment, but you get this and this and this and this and this with it. And I have X number of years of experience, and I have been featured in these publications, and in just reminding people of the true value of working with you. All right, photography website tip number 4, update your site regularly. I say this because you would never go a month without posting to Instagram, would you? So similarly, you should never go a month without updating your website. I'm not saying that you have to update your site as frequently as Instagram. If you were doing that every single day, more power to you. But definitely you do want to be updating your site, probably at least on a monthly basis. for sure quarterly and definitely annually, you need to be taking a look at your site as a whole to make sure that all the content is up to date, that the images are featuring your current work. So 3 practical ways to keep your site up to date. Number 1, prioritize your SEO. I'm not sure how familiar you are with SEO. That means search engine optimization, and it's basically what you do to your website to help it rank highly on Google for the keywords that your clients are searching. So for example, they might be searching brand photographer in Montreal or something like that. And so what you want to do is create content on your site that includes those keywords so that your site can rank for that keyword when someone's searching on Google. It's a really involved process, honestly. And it's not even just about the content. It's about, tweaking your technical aspects of your site so that your site loads quickly. Site speed is a really big one for photographers because you tend to have a lot of images on your site. And of course, you want them to be high quality. You're not going to be putting up a grainy image on your website, but it's really important to resize and compress those images before you upload them to your site so that your site speed is not bogged down. So there are all these different considerations when you're updating your website for SEO. I'm not going to get into them all here and now. Even if I did a whole training on SEO, it would be like hours long. But I do encourage you to take a look into it, especially if you are hoping to attract more leads and clients outside of your current referral network. It's just a really good way to build up your audience on autopilot, and then also to connect with the ideal clients who are actually likely to convert, right? Because if I'm searching brand photographer in Montreal, I'm very serious about hiring a brand photographer in Montreal. So if I land on your website and you are a Montreal brand photographer, the chances of me actually converting on your site are actually pretty high. All right, number 2, blog your favorite sessions. Many of you probably already have a blog, or maybe you started a blog and haven't been able to keep up with it. Totally understand. It's pretty time consuming, which is why I encourage you not to do this too often or think that you're going to be doing it too often. A week is a great cadence if you can get into it. Bi-weekly is great as well, but even monthly, if you can post one of your favorite sessions a month, that's a really good way to show Google and your website visitors that you are serious about your business, you continue to update your website, you care about your clients, you love to promote them, and people want to be featured, honestly. So this can be a really good way also to build up your testimonials. If you're blogging about a favorite session, you can always reach out to that client and say, hey, could you share, like a sentence or two about what it was like to work with me? And more than likely, they're going to be happy to oblige and give you that awesome quote that you can use both in the blog post and throughout your site. Don't just randomly choose photography sessions. Choose ones that actually reflect the type of ideal client that you want to convert, because otherwise you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. You may be attracting more of that type of client that you don't want to book, and that's because you're reflecting that in your blog post. And finally, optimize your portfolio. Of course, as a photography website, you probably have a portfolio. If you don't, that's okay too. This may surprise you, but at Quotable Copy, we actually don't think that portfolio pages are necessary, especially if you have one big page for all of your services. Those types of pages can then just get very long, complex, confusing for your ideal client. And again, all those images can slow down your site and contribute to a poor user experience. Another option, by the way, would be to create separate mini portfolio pages or just, galleries for each individual service. That can be a really effective way to promote that specific service. But regardless, if you do have a portfolio page, they are still a great way to obviously showcase your work, inspire your ideal clients, get them to think, oh, if she can do that for them, what can she do for me? So not to say we don't recommend them at all. If you do have one though, just make sure that you're being very curated about what photos you choose, and don't just include, a page that is full of photos with no copy whatsoever. You want to add some supporting content that explains why these photos are significant. You don't need a specific caption for each individual photo. I understand that can look really clunky, but even just some intro text, maybe some text toward the bottom that again promote your services, that can just be a really good way to nurture leads down the page rather than just having them land on a page, see some photos, and then not know what to do from there. So just make sure that that portfolio page is up to date, that it reflects, again, your current work. Our last secret to a high converting photography website is to tell your visitors what to do next. Because honestly, you're not trying to keep them on your website forever. You want to get them off that website, onto your email list, on a phone call, into your client management system so that you can follow up with them personally and really just get them to become a client, because that's ultimately the goal. So what is that next step that you want them to take? A conversion can mean different things for different photographers and for different pages on your website. So I have 3 different options here as far as what that next step could be and ways to get people to that step. So first and foremost, offer a strategic contact form. I'm going to guess that unless you offer online booking, a contact form is usually the way that you follow up with leads, get them to become a client. But what I mean by strategic here is don't just put a simple basic form that says name, email, message. You could do that and you're probably going to get more leads that way. However, they may just be looky-loos. They may not understand, the investment involved or your timeline. On your contact form, you can have different fields that help qualify those people by saying maybe something like, what is your budget? What is your event date? And that way, when their form comes through, you can see, okay, they actually may not be a good fit for me. Maybe I'll direct them to, another photographer who would be. Or maybe they are a perfect fit. And that way, you know that you really want to seriously follow up with them. When I say offer a strategic contact form, I mean that on the contact page or inquiry, whatever you decide to call it. And then you can also embed this form elsewhere on your site, but for sure be linking to it in as many places as are relevant. Number 2, share an investment guide. This is one of my favorite strategies for photographers. I know many of you probably, when you have someone reach out, that next step after that is to send your investment or your pricing guide. It can either be public or private. I like private website pages actually because they're very easy to update on the back end. And all you have to do is then send that link to your ideal client. But you can also make it a public page if you're not afraid to share your pricing publicly. That's a really good option for people who maybe are getting so many leads that they don't know what to do with, and they're just not, as quality as they need them to be. They need to explicitly say upfront, this is what I charge, or at least this is an average of what I charge. I always recommend sharing maybe like an average investment on your site publicly, and then following up with like a private investment guide. I have thoughts on how to structure your investment guide. That would be a whole other training altogether, but that is a really effective way to get people to take the next step. And then finally, promote a lead magnet. This is a great option for those who may not be ready to book or inquire just yet, but they do like your work. They might be a potential client down the road. And so they want to stay in touch with you. You want to stay in touch with them. So that way you can continue to market to them down the road. And then maybe they will become a client in a couple of months or even years. You just never know. It's so much better to just get their information, be able to be in contact with them if you so choose, than to just have no option at all and then have them just hit the back button and never visit your site again. So a lead magnet is a resource that you give to your clients for free in exchange for their email address. This can be many different things. It could be, like a checklist. Maybe it's like a wardrobe checklist, what to wear to your brand session, or maybe it's a video sharing, like the step-by-step process of what happens when you book a newborn session, or, something like that that's relevant to your business, but that's also valuable to your ideal client. You don't want to share something that's like just random, like my favorite stores to shop at. I mean, I suppose maybe you could argue that your ideal client would be downloading something like that, but whatever it is that you're offering, it should be relevant to your ideal client. Otherwise, there's not really any point from a marketing and sales perspective of having them on your email list. All right, that was a lot to take in. Those were the 5 secrets to a high converting photography website. And obviously there is a lot more that I could share, not only about each of those tips, but dozens of other strategies that I have in my back pocket as well. But I really don't want to overwhelm you. I know that it's probably already kind of overwhelming to hear all this and think, oh my gosh, I have to do all that. Maybe some of you are super excited and you're like, yeah, like that all makes a lot of sense. Maybe you're doing a lot of it already, but you just want to, take a couple of those tips and optimize them. Wherever you are at, I just want to encourage you that you've got this. You can do it. Your work is already incredible. It's just a matter of optimizing your site so that you can increase your conversion rate so that you can work a little bit less. Maybe you can charge a little bit more and put in a little less effort as well. If you do get stuck, I just want to throw this out there. At Quotable Copy, we offer a core service called the Branded Website Copy Bundle. It includes everything you need to convert your clients online with a website that is as conversion friendly as possible. So that includes things like a brand messaging guide, which is a full-on beautiful 20-page guide that helps you define your brand voice, your core offers, how you talk about all those things, some fun little snippets like an Instagram bio, things like that, just really helping you kickstart your brand messaging as a whole. And then the custom website copy is really the bulk of this service. It includes up to 5 different pages of website copy and a little wireframe, communication with your designer, just things that help you know exactly how to implement the messaging on your website that's really going to get people to want to work with you. We also include a website success kit, which includes checklists for pre-launch, post-launch, SEO, just helping you take that website to the next level, take your marketing as a whole to the next level. Because again, messaging is just one part of the puzzle, although I do believe it is a very important part. And then of course, there's personal customer support along the way, including calls, Loom video reviews. I am here to work with you one-on-one and make sure that your website is everything you dreamed it would be and more. So if you get stuck on the messaging part, stuck on the layout part, don't know how to wrap your mind around some of these strategies, this is just a really good option for you. We also offer like a website copy only package, as well as, of course, other copywriting services. So you're welcome to reach out. Just want to throw that out there if you do get stuck. A couple of other helpful resources too from Quotable Copy. We have our Brand Voice magazine, which is a free resource. It's a 20-page guide to helping you define what your brand voice is, a little more DIY strategy. It's also just like a really cute little resource. So I encourage you to download that. Very helpful for any photographer. And then my portfolio and pricing guide. This is a hidden page, similar to what I was talking about earlier, that you can see if you just submit your email address and request that. So I'm happy to talk with you about working together. If you visit quotablecopy.com/resources, you can access a variety of helpful blog posts. You can sign up for our newsletter. We have a weekly copywriting newsletter as well as a monthly marketing newsletter, just a bunch of other things to help you with your photography marketing. And that's about it. If you want to stay in touch, again, visit quotablecopy.com. Hit us up on Instagram at Quotable Copy or email me directly. I monitor this inbox, hello@quotablecopy.com. I hope you have enjoyed this training. I've sure enjoyed sharing it with you. Photographers, don't tell the others, are some of my absolute favorite people to work with. I adore you. I adore what you do. And I think you are just doing incredible work in your community. And I would love to help you spread the word however that can be done.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on your favorite social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your share can help someone improve their photography business and their life. Use the hashtag Focus and Flourish Podcast so we can see your posts and connect with you there.